After this break.
And welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Paul Greeny. President Trump will unveil a $12 billion aid package for American farmers affected by his trade policies. More on the administration's efforts to address economic concerns. The Supreme Court appears poised to back President Trump in an FTC termination. Paramount has launched a hostile bid worth over $100 billion for Warner Brothers Discovery. What to know about the last-ditch effort to outbid Netflix. A 7.6 earthquake striking off the coast of northern Japan, triggering a tsunami warning. What we're learning. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says unity between Europe, Ukraine, and the United States is critical when negotiating an end to the war. His comments as he's meeting with European leaders. And Melania Trump distributes toys at the Toys for Tots drive in Quantico, Virginia. The First Lady and U.S. Marines bring children a little Christmas cheer.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
And it's great to have you here this Monday afternoon. President Trump is set to kick off a tour in Pennsylvania tomorrow. He's focusing on making prices a little more affordable. Meanwhile, a White House official says Trump will unveil a $12 billion aid package for American farmers. Now, the announcement comes as Trump is expected to make an announcement at 2 p.m. at a round table today at the White House. U.S. farmers under pressure this year as China shifted to South American suppliers for soybeans amid stalled trade negotiations with America. The Trump administration was expected to announce a farm package totaling as much as $15 billion back in October. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins previously saying the 40-day federal government shutdown delaying the rollout. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent discussing the U.S. economy.
We are now seeing this affordability problem, and I think next year we're going to move on to prosperity.
The Trump administration appears to be changing its approach to concerns about affordability. The Treasury Secretary argues the economy is strong, but he's acknowledging the issue.
What we're not going to do is say that Americans don't know what they're feeling.
President Donald Trump is creating a task force to look at food prices. New analysis of Salesforce data shows shoppers paid more for less this Thanksgiving weekend. According to polls, many Americans are worried about stretching their budgets. Now some Republicans are urging action on the issue.
If you're living paycheck to paycheck, which most Americans are, and you can't afford to make ends meet, nothing else matters other than that.
And President Trump has signed a new executive order creating federal task forces to investigate anti-competitive behavior throughout the U.S. food supply chain. The order warns that foreign-controlled corporations pose widening risks to food affordability and national security. Now, it notes that some companies have already settled price-fixing lawsuits worth tens of millions of dollars. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Federal Trade Commission Chairman Andrew Ferguson have been directed to launch task forces inside their agencies to identify potential collusion or foreign influence. They're now authorized to bring enforcement actions or propose new regulations if they find evidence of anti-competitive conduct. They must also brief congressional leaders twice within the next year on any findings or recommended legislative steps. And the Senate is expected to vote as soon as this week on whether to extend expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies. Meanwhile, Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana says he's preparing to send GOP leaders a health care proposal aimed at lowering premiums and directing more money to patients. In an interview with Fox News, he said his plan could reach the 60 Senate votes needed to pass. Here he is.
I think the White House and Republicans are very much in favor of Americans having affordable health insurance. They want Americans to have access. And the president's given pretty clear guidelines. He wants money to go to patients and not to insurance companies.
Cassidy says he wants Americans on Obamacare to shift into lower premium plans supported by expanded health savings accounts. He says subsidies, set to expire in January, could be restructured so that all funding flows directly to patients instead of to insurers. Cassidy says he's been in discussions with Democrats and believes both parties can agree on giving consumers more choice. And the Supreme Court appears poised to back President Trump in an FTC termination. The justices are hearing a case over the legality of President Trump firing a Federal Trade Commission member. The Justice Department warns that the Supreme Court to overturn a 1935 precedent that limits presidential authority. It's a case that has shielded the heads of independent agencies from removal for decades. A lower court had ruled President Trump exceeded his authority when he moved to dismiss FTC member Rebecca Slaughter in March before her term was set to expire. Today, the justices signaled they will uphold the legality of President Trump's firing of Slaughter. We'll keep you updated on that. And President Trump will be signing an executive order this week on AI approval processes. He says this is to avoid having different rules in each of the 50 states.
Trump wrote on Truth Social today, quote, "There must be only one rule book if we are going to continue to lead in AI. We're beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long," he said, "if we're going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, involved in rules and the approval process." The president said he will be doing a one-rule executive order this week. Trump did not provide details. Leading AI firms have called for national AI standards instead of a 50-state patchwork of laws, but the move is likely to face some pushback from states who have previously warned of disastrous consequences if the technology is left unregulated.
And Paramount has launched an attempt at a hostile takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. The move comes just days after Netflix reached a $72 billion deal with the company. Now, Paramount said it's offering Warner Bros. Shareholders $54.4 billion. It's about $30 per share in cash. Paramount is also offering to buy its cable assets. Now, President Trump raised concerns yesterday over the Netflix-Warner Brothers deal due to the size of their combined market share. The offer follows a deal in October between Paramount and news and commentary website The Free Press. Paramount installed founder Barry Wise as the editor-in-chief of its subsidiary, CBS News. And President Trump hosted the Kennedy Center Honors last night, becoming the first U.S. president to preside over the ceremony. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the annual event, which has celebrated major contributors to American arts and culture since 1978.
The ceremony honored actor Sylvester Stallone for the Rocky and Rambo series, in which he played the main characters, Gloria Gaynor for her song I Will Survive, the rock band Kiss, country music singer George Strait, and Tony Award-winning actor Michael Crawford.
They've given us immortal characters of the silver screen, truly immortal characters, unprecedented triumphs of the Broadway stage, and unforgettable music that has become part of the really soundtrack of our lives.
While at the event, the president addressed the blockbuster Netflix-Warner Brothers merger.
Netflix is a great company, and they've done a phenomenal job. Ted is a fantastic man. I have a lot of respect for him, but it's a lot of market share, so we'll have to see what happens.
United States Agency for Global Media Special Advisor Carrie Lake says she can't think of anyone better than President Trump to usher in what she called the golden age of arts.
He is a showman, but most of all, he loves to build, create, and restore. And as he's restoring America to its glory, to her glory, he's also restoring this building.
Lake says the arts bring people together.
You can be from America, you can be from another country, and you sit and you listen to a symphony. And everything, all the differences just melt away.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick echoed that sentiment, saying music and the Kennedy Center unite people.
Music is the greatest way to people's heart and to make them smile. And only this president loves sports and can do FIFA in the morning and Andrea Bocelli in the evening, right? So he covers all sides.
Actor Kelsey Grammer emphasized individuality as central to American cultural heritage, noting how music constantly evolves.
I thought music was dead in the 80s. I was like, oh my God, what the hell's happened to it? And then the grunge movement came along. I was like, holy moly, these guys are making music again.
Trump has shown great interest in the Kennedy Center since his term began, including appointing a new board and initiating renovations. Kennedy Center President Richard Grenell highlighted a renewed focus on fiscal discipline under his watch.
I didn't cancel a single show. I just required all of our shows and all of the future shows to take ticket sales into account and donors and corporations. Between those three revenue sources, if you can't get to zero and not lose me money on your programming, I can't sign the contract.
President Trump on Saturday presented medals to the 2025 Kennedy Center honorees during a ceremony in the Oval Office, expressing his sincere thanks for the artist's lifelong contributions.
On behalf of every American who has been inspired by the unbelievable talent of Michael Crawford, who has been influenced by the music of George Strait or Gloria Gaynor or Kiss, or who has been moved by Sylvester Stallone's unmatched heart and talent and grit, because nobody played that role, and nobody will ever play that role like Sly.
The Kennedy Center honors are widely seen as the top U.S. recognition for lifetime achievement in the performing arts. President Trump hailed the slate of artists as perhaps the most accomplished and renowned class ever assembled. The full program will air on CBS and Paramount Plus on December 23rd. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And turning now to negotiations around ending the Russia-Ukraine war. President Trump says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hasn't yet read the latest U.S. peace proposal.
And I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that President Zelensky hasn't yet read the proposal. That was as of a few hours ago. His people love it, but he hasn't. Russia's fine with it.
Yesterday we spoke with Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner. I thank them for their readiness to work together 24/7. The American representatives know the basic Ukrainian positions. The conversation was constructive, although not easy.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials say at least 7 people were injured when Russian drones struck an apartment block in the country's northeast. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that unity between Europe, Ukraine, and the United States is critical when negotiating an end to the war. He's in London today, rallying support among Kyiv's allies in U.S.-led peace push.
Things which are very important for today, I think unity between Europe and Ukraine, and also unity between Europe, Ukraine, and the United States. There are some things which we can't manage without Americans, things which we can't manage without Europe, and that's why we need to make some important decisions.
Now at the meeting, French President Emmanuel Macron said Russia's economy is now starting to suffer after the latest round of sanctions. Meanwhile, the German Chancellor said he's skeptical about certain aspects of the U.S. position on ending the war, but he didn't give further details on his stance. Moscow says it's open to negotiations and blames Kyiv and the West for blocking peace. But Ukraine and its allies say Russia is stalling and using diplomacy to entrench its gains. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet President Trump on December 29th. An Israeli government spokesperson made the announcement today.
They will discuss the future steps and phases and the international stabilization force of the ceasefire plan. The third phase of this plan will be focused on the de-radicalization of the Gaza Strip.
Netanyahu met with the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, in Jerusalem earlier today. The meeting was attended by U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, and other officials. Over the weekend, Netanyahu said the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire was nearly complete, and that negotiations are now shifting towards a more demanding second stage. Meanwhile, Hamas said it was ready to discuss freezing or storing of its arsenal of weapons as part of its ceasefire with Israel. Here's what we know so far.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday said the second phase of a U.S. plan to end the war in Gaza was close, but cautioned several key issues still needed to be resolved.
I'm going to discuss them with President Trump when I meet him later on this month.
Netanyahu's comments came while speaking to reporters alongside German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Jerusalem.
I think it's important to make sure that Hamas complies, not only with the ceasefire, but also with their commitment, which they undertook, to disarm and have Gaza demilitarized. We're about to finish the first stage. We're there, almost. But we have to make sure that we achieve the same results in the second stage, and that's something I look forward to discussing with President Trump.
A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is entering its second month, although both sides have repeatedly accused each other of violating the truce agreement. Since the ceasefire came into effect, Israel has carried out airstrikes that it says are fending off attacks or destroying militant infrastructure. Israel retained control of 53% of Gaza under the first phase of Trump's plan, which involved the release of hostages held by militants in Gaza and of Palestinians detained by Israel. According to the plan, Israel is to pull back further in the second phase, as a transitional authority is established in Gaza, and a multinational security force is deployed. Hamas is disarmed, and reconstruction begins.
And still to come, acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba steps down after a federal court disqualified her. What she says about the court ruling and plans for the future. With that and more after the break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Behind every headline in Washington, there's a story that could shape your future. With the Capitol Report, you get more than just the news. You get direct access to the White House and the Capitol. Every day, we bring you exclusive interviews with lawmakers, analysts, and experts, plus in-depth coverage of the decisions being made in Washington, D.C. Broadcasting live from the nation's capital, you witness events as they unfold, straight from the heart of Washington, keeping you connected, informed, and always a step ahead.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Graney. Alina Habba, the acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, is stepping down. It comes after a federal court ruled that she was unlawfully appointed by President Trump. In a statement posted on X today, Habba said, quote, "As a result of the Third Circuit's ruling and to protect the stability and integrity of the office which I love, I've decided to step down in my role as the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey. But do not mistake compliance for surrender. This decision will not weaken the Justice Department, and it will not weaken me," she said. Earlier this month, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals sided with the lower court decision and disqualified Habba because she was not confirmed by the Senate. Habba and the Trump administration have argued that Democratic senators are stifling the confirmation process. Habba said she will continue to serve as the senior advisor to Attorney General Pam Bondi for U.S. attorneys while she waits for further review of the court ruling. And it's day 4 of a hearing in the case against accused killer Luigi Mangione. His defense is attempting to get key evidence removed before trial. Our NTD reporter Arlene Richards was in the courtroom listening to another day of testimony.
So the prosecution called 2 witnesses. One was the first assistant district attorney, Nicole Smith, and the other one was police officer Christy Wasser. And both of them are from Altoona, Pennsylvania. Both of them testified about the search that was conducted at the McDonald's where Luigi Mangione was ultimately arrested. And as you know, the defense is saying that that search was conducted unlawfully, and they're attempting to have some of the key evidence removed before the trial.
And how did their testimonies help the prosecution?
So Nicole Smith, who is the first assistant district attorney, she testified that she was contacted by one of the lead officers who was on the scene at the McDonald's, and he was asking her about what charges he could charge. She said he was calling her to get her approval for this. And this is something that they commonly do, but she said they normally don't do it for charges like forgery and tampering with a license, which is what he was charged with. But this time they contacted her because they knew that this person might be the person that New York police would be looking for, and that they would probably ultimately have to turn over evidence to the New York police. So they wanted to make sure. She then went on to describe the differences between the types of evidence they found in his backpack. And one of them, she said, was called contraband, and the other one is inventory. And she made this distinction because some of that evidence was taken by the Pennsylvania police and kept, and other evidence was returned to the bag and went with Luigi Mangione to the correctional facility that he ultimately ended up at. So the contraband, which is things like the gun and the ammunition, can be taken over by the police, and the other items such as his clothes, his food, the handwritten notes that are being talked about, those things went back into the bag. Later on, she says that they got 2 different search warrants. One search warrant was for the gun and the ammunition and other things like that that they wanted to keep. The second search warrant was so that they could turn the evidence over to the New York police, which they knew that that would be coming up. And then the officer, Officer Wasser, she testified that the search was conducted incident to the arrest. Now, she was the officer who actually searched the bag, the backpack. And she said that, you know, the Mangione was taken under arrest first. He was handcuffed and he was told what the charges are before she touched the bag and actually opened it and began to search for the items. And then she also talked about the different items that she found, and that she was concerned at some point that there might be a bomb in the bag, because they actually asked Mangione whether there was anything in there that they should know about, and his answer was, I choose not to talk. So that, she said, raised her suspicion that there might be a bomb in the bag. Well, as I left the courtroom, Officer Wasser was still on the stand. I'm assuming that she was cross-examined by the defense, which they could do. And then I think this afternoon or later today, they're probably going to call more officers that were there on the scene, or they will call the actual district attorney of Blair County in Altoona, Pennsylvania, who also was involved in giving the approval for the charges. Now, there were ultimately around 8 officers who came to that McDonald's that day, and I think we've already had about 4 officers on the stand, so I'm expecting them to go through the other officers and get their testimony about what occurred that day, and also about the Pennsylvania law on search and seizure.
We'll keep you updated on that trial. Now, former Democratic Congressman Colin Allred is ending his U.S. Senate bid in Texas. He will instead run for the newly drawn 33rd Congressional District. His announcement came just hours before the state's filing deadline, reshaping the Democratic primary landscape. Allred said he concluded that a tough Democratic Senate primary and possible runoff could weaken the party heading into a high-stakes general election. He called the decision difficult, but said he intends to continue serving his community. The 33rd District, redrawn by the Republican-led legislature, is a heavily Democratic seat that includes the area where Allred grew up. He noted it is also where he and his wife are raising their 2 children. And Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is expected to enter the Senate race today. The move would significantly reshape the Democratic primary for the seat held by Republican Senator John Cornyn. Crockett would join State Representative James Tallarico on the March 3rd primary ballot. The Democratic nominee will face the winner of a GOP primary that includes Cornyn, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Congressman Wesley Hunt. Recent polling shows Crockett leading the Democratic field. Analysts say her name recognition could make her the front runner. And on Capitol Hill this week, a vote to make changes to the Department of War. Lawmakers this week unveiling the final defense bill that aims to lock in President Trump's agenda. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the takeaways.
This year's bill will codify 15 of President Trump's War Department-related executive orders.
One of the most important pieces of legislation that we do every year, and it fits in very consistently with the President's Peace Through Strength agenda.
It aims to strip the Pentagon of programs like CRT, DEI, and climate initiatives, and refocuses on merit-based promotions instead of diversity to drive admissions to service academies. DOGE cuts are included, eliminating $20 billion in obsolete weapons, inefficient programs, and Pentagon bureaucracy. Enlisted service members would get a 4% pay raise. The bill would cement Trump's deployment of troops to the border to combat illegal immigration and drugs. As for policy abroad, lawmakers aim to strengthen U.S.-Israel military operations and ramp up defense in the Indo-Pacific to deter CCP aggression towards Taiwan.
She has ordered the People's Liberation Army to be ready to take Taiwan by force by 2027.
The CCP has conducted the largest military buildup since World War II. Countering China and Russia's technology and weapons development is also a focus in the newest defense bill. Lawmakers this week are expected to vote on the yearly defense bill. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is highlighting the Trump administration's effort to put America first in its policies. Hegseth spoke on Saturday at the annual Reagan National Defense Forum, pointing to similarities between President Trump and former President Reagan. According to Hegseth, multiple administrations after the Cold War did not put America first in its policies. NTD's Arian Pasdar has the takeaways.
Their America Last bipartisan consensus is done. It is finished. Under President Trump's leadership, after decades of disastrous decisions by this nation's self-appointed so-called foreign policy elite, we're once again putting American interests first.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth highlighting the Trump administration's policies in putting America first. On Friday, President Trump unveiled a national security blueprint in which he describes China as a central threat to the U.S. Hegseth touched on the topic as well. He says Washington isn't aiming to overpower China, but rather defending its own interests.
It's our job to make sure Beijing sees unquestionable U.S. military strength that, if necessary, can back up our national interests. Even as we make clear our peaceful intentions, we insist that as a Pacific nation ourselves, China respect our long-standing interests in the Indo-Pacific.
He also touched on the issue of America's support for its partners. Hegseth criticizes the fact that previous administrations seem to overly focus on defending its partners, like Ukraine, instead of putting America first.
We will actually, for real, get our allies and partners to step up and do their part. We will no longer tolerate free riding. President Trump has shown the way with his historic leadership that yielded the commitments at NATO's Hague Summit. There, NATO committed to spend 5% of GDP on defense.
The US recently changed its policy on support for Ukraine. Instead of donating weapons directly to Kiev, Washington now sells them to NATO, which then sends them to Ukraine. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
And Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are welcoming their Australian counterparts to Washington, D.C. today. Here's Rubio on the future of the U.S.-Australian relationship.
This is something we share in common, not just with Australia, but with many of our allies around the world, the desire to diversify supply chains, and the belief that in order for us to be able to do anything, whether it's defend our countries, defend our allies, or defend each other, but also to build our economies and to prosper as economies, we have to have critical mineral supplies and supply chains that are reliable and that are diverse and not overly invested in one place, where they can be used as leverage against us or our partners of the world. And so this is something that you'll find the U.S. and Australia working very closely on, and it's at the cornerstone of everything we plan to do together in the months and years to come.
This is the 40th annual ministerial meeting between the two countries. Rubio touted the strength of the U.S.-Australian relationship. He said the meeting today will help build on the momentum that came from the meeting between President Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in October. Rubio also said he will visit Australia next year. The two Australian ministers said the U.S. is Australia's principal ally and the cornerstone of their strategic and foreign policy. They said their relationship is full steam ahead. Hegseth said that on the defense side, the two countries are working on force posture and industrial cooperation. The U.S. and Australia, both members of the Quad and AUKUS, countering Communist China's security threats in the Indo-Pacific, has also been a central theme of the relationship. And the Trump administration says it has located tens of thousands of children who were smuggled into the United States. Border czar Tom Homan is accusing the Biden administration of losing track of many more. Here's the story.
White House border czar Tom Homan says the Trump administration has thus far located 62,000 children who were illegally smuggled into the United States. In an interview with Fox News Sunday, Homan said the Biden administration lost track of 300,000 minors. He alleges many of those missing children ended up in sex trafficking or forced labor.
President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children were in sex trafficking, we found them. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about.
Homan says those children were among more than 500,000 minors smuggled into the country during the previous administration. He says the Trump administration has been actively searching for them.
Over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country under Joe Biden. They released them to unvetted sponsors. They lost track of 300,000. President Trump committed on day one that we will do everything we can to find every one of these children.
He accused Biden and Democrats of being complicit by refusing to secure the border.
For 4 years, this has happened. Sex trafficking, historic highs. Children crossing the border, historic highs. Migrant deaths crossing the border, historic highs.
Homan says finding missing children remains the administration's top priority. Meanwhile, Minnesota has become a focal point for immigration enforcement, with officials reporting widespread immigration fraud among Somali migrants. Homan told CNN that Minneapolis has a large illegal immigrant population and that enforcement teams are moving into the city. The intensified operation comes after a $1 billion welfare fraud scandal that federal prosecutors say involved criminal networks tied to parts of the Somali immigrant community. Prosecutors say the scheme exploited nutrition and child care programs by creating fake service providers and pocketing taxpayer funds. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CBS yesterday that investigators are now following the flow of overseas money transfers connected to the fraud.
But, when you come to this country, you got to learn which side of the road to drive on. You got to learn to stop at stop signs, and you got to learn not to defraud the American people.
Bessent said investigators found that funds tied to suspects, including some political donors, moved through informal money transfer networks. When asked if the money might have been used to support terror networks abroad, Bessent said it's too early to draw conclusions about its final use.
And President Trump is likely about to announce a $12 billion in federal aid package for farmers right now at the White House. Let's take a look.
They're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money, Meryl. What do you think? Peanuts for you, though, right? Peanuts. She's a farmer of rice. This relief will provide much-needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices for American families. And again, we inherited something that we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country, and we're taking care of it. Farmers are an indispensable national asset, part of the backbone of America. I've always felt it so strongly. They're so important. Unfortunately, under sleepy Joe Biden, he's a sleepy guy. Our farmers were crushed by the worst inflation in modern history and crippling restrictions on energy, water, and countless other necessities for farmers. And what they did to the farmer in terms of putting the brakes on was just absolutely unacceptable. In my first term, we had an agricultural trade surplus by a lot. We had a big surplus, meaning we were exporting American agricultural products all over the world, making a net profit, and in many cases a very substantial profit. He came in and ruined it. Biden turned that surplus into a gaping agricultural deficit that continues to this day, but we're knocking it down. It's starting to go very good. In fact, China, as you know, is buying a tremendous amount of soybeans, and the number, I spoke with President Xi recently, very recently, and I think he's going to do even more than he promised to do. So I think the relationship is a very good one. I think he's going to do more than he promised to do, and what he promised to do is a lot. So we're very happy with that. In the last year, Biden bankruptcies rose by 55%, having to do with farms. So farm bankruptcies under Joe Biden went up 55%. That's not good. But now we're once again in a position where a president is able to put farmers first, but unfortunately I'm the only president that does that. On day one, I terminated the Green New Scam. Energy prices are down, gasoline prices are down. We've slashed record numbers of crippling regulations, and we're working on huge trade deals already, securing $60 billion in agricultural purchase commitments. And, you know, Biden made none. He didn't make any trade deals having to do with the farmers or any of it. It's crazy. China committed, he was the worst president in the history of our country, by the way, in case anybody has any questions. China committed to over $40 billion of soybean purchases, and that's a commitment. And I asked President Xi if he could even up it. And I think he'll do that. I mean, not a commitment, 40 billion is a commitment, but the soybean farmers are quite happy. Since my successful meeting in South Korea with President Xi, purchases have been made and soybeans are being exported out of the United States to China as we speak. And I say that our soybeans, I told this to President Xi, our soybeans are more nutritious than competitors. Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? In fact, you know who asked me that question? President Xi asked me that question. He said, really, I had never heard of it. And he was a food purchaser for a long time. But that's what I hear. And Japan agreed to $8 billion in purchases of corn, soybeans, ethanol, fertilizer, aviation, biofuel, and rice. You know, Japan never bought rice from anybody else. It's like a very important thing to them. And they agreed to buy rice, okay?
Absolutely.
So I also proudly signed into law the largest tax cuts in history, and the one big, beautiful bill, the monumental tax relief bill that is benefiting very, very strongly, benefiting the American farmer. And I think also for farmers, we have, as you know, and we got this, the estate tax, or the death tax, as they call it, on farmers, on small businesses. You don't have to pay it anymore. A lot of farms, you love your children, and your children are great, and they want to be farmers, and you leave the farm with your children, and a lot of farms are, you know, sort of cash poor, land-rich cash poor, and the kids would go to the local bank or to any bank, and they'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they'd end up losing the farm. They go bankrupt. and a lot of death too. You know, literally, because they love their farm and they love their business and they love that way of life, they end up committing suicide. A lot of suicides. We have no more estate tax. How about that? Do you have children? Huh?
I do.
Well, let them know. Now, if you love your children, then it's good. If you don't love your children, you don't have to leave them anything. It doesn't matter what I just said.
They're still young. I still love them.
I have a feeling you love them.
Still love them.
I have a feeling you love your children. But the estate tax is a very big thing. So you don't have estate tax. You die, you leave your farm or whatever, or small business to your children, you don't have to pay estate tax. It seems to affect the farmer more than anybody else. Because you can have a farm that's very valuable, and therefore you have to pay a big tax, but it's not a big value in terms of cash. Maximizing domestic farm production is a big part of how we will make America affordable again and bring down grocery prices for American families. And again, these are prices that we inherited. When I left, we were doing incredible. In 4 years, what they've done to this country and so many, and not even mentioning the border and the criminals allowed into our country and all of the other. So I just want to say it's a tremendous honor being with you. I'd now like to ask Secretary Rollins to provide some of the details, followed by Secretary Bessent, Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, Senator Bozeman, Representative Scott, and then we go to a couple of the farmers' representatives, but we'll all get involved a little bit. You can speak. Anybody is shy to speak in front of the press, and I don't blame you if that's the case, but farmers, Court Holub and Merrill Kennedy will say a few words also, and then we'll have a little discussion, okay? Madam Secretary.
Thank you to the greatest boss in the world for a long time now. It's just an honor to be here. I'm going to keep my comments very short because I really want to make sure that you and the world gets to hear from our farmers. So a couple of quick points. Number one, this country and our farm economy is facing a crisis that we inherited that most of these farmers have not seen in their lifetime. Profitability is down. It's just one crisis after another. When we came into office, or when you did, and you were sworn in on January the 20th, as you mentioned, not one new trade deal had been struck in 4 years. The cost of inputs for our farmers, fertilizer up 36%, manual labor up 47%, interest rates up 73%. When you combine the cost of inputs for our farmers married to no new trade deals, and then you're facing an administration whose priorities were DEI, climate change, putting the farmer aside. I mean, it was an absolute war on agriculture and on our rural communities. That all changed on January 20th. So as, sir, we are working, and you have been just so resolute. I mean, these are our people. Rural America is the fabric of our country. This is the way of life that preserves the American dream for the next 250 years as we celebrate the first 250 years. So we began to go to work immediately. What these elected officials sitting across from us did with the One Big Beautiful Bill, with a lot of help and direction from you, was the largest investment in rural America in any of our lifetimes. We will begin to see that effectuated next year in 2026. As we have fought to bring input costs down, you have talked about, and even this weekend did an executive order, signed one, on looking into the reason that so much of these costs have been driven up over and over. Equipment, again, fertilizer, seed, et cetera, we have to make sure we understand why that is. And then the continuing of the additional trade deals across the world. And no longer will America be held and beholden to the regime of other countries' tariff infrastructure. Instead, we are moving our products out across the world. Having said that, and we have been listening to the farmers for the last 10 months, 11 months, sir, that the bridge that is needed to get from the last administration and what basically happened under the last president and the last U.S. Department of Agriculture to this new golden age for farmers, where instead of farming for government checks, they can farm to feed their family and sell their products and pass it on to the next generation, that this bridge is absolutely necessary based on where we are right now. So as the president said, we are very pleased to announce that today we are going to be effectuating an $11 billion bridge payment to our farmers. The money will move by February 28th of 2026, but by the end of this month, so just in the next couple of weeks, every farmer that is able to apply for it will know exactly what that number looks like. So as you are going to your lender, as you are working to ensure and understanding what you can plant for next year, you will have that number in hand. And we will continue to talk to our farmers, continue to understand exactly what this looks like and what is necessary. The final thing I'll say is
12 billion.
Well, we're holding $1 billion back. So today we are announcing $11 billion. We are holding $1 billion back just to ensure that we are covering. So today's announcement covers all of our row crops, but some specialty crops and others that we are still working with to best understand where they are in the farm economy and ensure that we're making every forward-moving position that we need to. And then finally, as we move to this new golden age for agriculture and for rural America, as we continue to fight for these farmers and ranchers, their way of life, and those that are represented here represent hundreds of thousands of farmers across this country. Just know that this president, I have never been around anyone who every time we talk, he asks, how are my farmers? Every single time. So we will never stop fighting. We will make sure that we're doing everything we can to ensure the next 250 years is just as bright, if not brighter, than the last. So thank you, sir.
Brooke. Thank you. And this money would not be possible without tariffs. The tariffs are taking in, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're giving some up to the farmers because they were mistreated by other countries for, I don't know, maybe right reasons, maybe wrong reasons. They weren't, they were trying to show us something, and it's really worked out really well. But because of the tariffs, this is possible. The other thing I'd like to add before going to Scott, and I think it's very important, we're going to also give the tractor companies, John Deere and all of the companies that make the equipment, we're going to take off a lot of the environmental restrictions that they have on machinery. It's ridiculous. I know because I buy a lot of that machinery for different things. We have a lot of big clubs with, hundreds, thousands of acres. And I buy a lot of stuff, and you buy it, it's got so much equipment on it for the environmental, it doesn't do anything, except it makes the equipment much more expensive and much more complicated to work. And it's not as good as the old days. And we're going to take a lot of that nonsense off of the equipment, which is going to reduce, and we're going to do it, and we're going to say you're going to reduce the prices. We're not going to do it, and they're not going to reduce. They're going to have to reduce their prices because farming equipment has gotten too expensive. And a lot of the reason is because they put these environmental excesses on the equipment, which don't do a damn thing except make it complicated, make it impractical. And you really have to be, in many cases, you need about 185 IQ to turn on a lawnmower now. So we're going to take that off, that crap off that they put on Biden mostly. And we're going to take that off. So that's going to make that'll bring down the equipment prices a lot.
That's right.
And we're going to do that immediately. You're going to work with Lee Zeldin, who's not here. He's doing a fantastic job. And Lee is going to work that out. And that would be most of it. It's crazy. The machines, they're always under repair because they're so complicated that you can't fix them. The old days you used to fix it yourself. Now you can't do that. You have to be a PhD from, let's say, MIT. Okay, so we're going to get that done. Scott, please go ahead.
Good. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the farmers to join us today. And I will tell all of you here that when either in person or when we are on a call with President Xi, the first thing the president asking for is more soybean purchases.
That's right.
We don't talk about geopolitics. We don't talk about trade. It's about soybean purchases.
We don't even say hello. We immediately start. Soybean. We start with the soybean, please.
Could you do a little? It's always could you do a little more? So, and I think President Xi has heard President Trump. This group represents an American way of life that has fed our nation and its spirit for hundreds of years. You are the caretakers of the most productive agricultural country on earth. You drive hundreds of billions of dollars in exports, support millions of jobs, and keep America's economy running strong. And this administration is committed to keeping it that way. By putting farmers first, President Trump is ushering in a new golden age for agriculture. The President's $11 billion relief package for America's farmers comes at a critical time. These direct payments will give producers the breathing room they need to market this year's harvest and plan for next season. This serves as a liquidity bridge during a period of adjustment, supporting the strongest agricultural sector in the world. Add this to the President's success in reining in Biden-era inflation, thanks to the administration's pro-growth policies, input costs like fuel and fertilizer are easing, and credit conditions are improving, interest rates are coming down, helping farmers prepare for the next harvest. President Trump scored a massive victory for America's farmers when he secured an arrangement with President Xi in Busan to reopen China's markets to U.S. agricultural exports, especially soybeans, sorghum, and other commodities. Under this framework, China committed to purchase at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans this growing season, followed by a minimum of 25 million tons annually for the next 3 years. And it's not just China. At the President's direction, Treasury, USTR, and the Department of Commerce have secured supplemental purchases of U.S. agricultural goods in major trade agreements across the world to open new markets to America's farmers. The One Big Beautiful Bill also delivered transformative benefits for America's small farmers. It locked in full expensing for farm equipment and 100% expensing for farm structures built during the President's term. I believe Representative Scott and a group in the House, we were originally just going to do factories, and they called us and said, you need to do farm structures too, and the President said, we're all in. And it extended and enhanced much needed relief from the punishing death tax, giving family farms greater certainty as they plan for the next generation. Mr. President, thank you for putting America first by putting your farmers first. Through pro-growth, pro-farm agenda, you are ushering in a new golden age of American agriculture, and Treasury is proud to help in this.
Thank you, Scott. You know what we'll do? We're going to go a little faster because the last meeting we had was 3 hours. We're the most transparent group, so if we can go faster, it'll be great. And then we'll take some questions from the fake news. Is that okay? Kevin, go real fast, Kevin.
Yeah, I could go really fast, sir. Yeah. Sir, the farm economy, you always ask me to just get a few numbers to put it in perspective. And as I've looked through the incredible performance of these people that work so hard and are such important people for keeping communities alive, the thing that struck me the most, because you and I were here in the White House during COVID, is that during those terrible COVID times, farm production didn't go down. Like these farmers, they went to work every day and they produced so much. But then Joe Biden came in, so we had COVID, and farm production didn't go down. And then Joe Biden came in and he really wrecked the farm economy. And so during Biden's term, 150,000 farms closed, sir. 150,000 farms closed after we went through COVID and we didn't have a problem. Now, why did we do it? Why were we able to do that? I'm going fast. The first is that, do you know that expenses for farms fell 5% while we were here because of all the things that we did, expensing and everything else? But under Joe Biden, they went up 13% because of all, the regulations, energy, everything else. But the thing that really jumped out at me the most is because you had high growth and low inflation. Interest expense for the farm economy fell $120 million per year while you were there in the White House. But under Joe Biden, it increased by $8 billion per year. And so you wonder why it is that we need this $11 billion, maybe $12 billion to build a bridge loan to America's farmers. It's because we know how to fix it. But there really was a hole that was dug in the previous administration. Thank you. Hope it's fast enough.
Good. That was quick. That's good. Appreciate it. Senator, please.
Yes, sir. No, thank you so much. Thank you for convening us this great announcement and all your hard work for farmers. I think I was reading the clips, and I think yesterday you talked about, Mr. Secretary, about farmers needing certainty, and which is so true. This bridge note is one of those things that provides certainty. I also, as I was reading that, thought to myself, the one thing that farmers can be certain of is the fact that you've got their back, and you proved that through the years in the last administration and now this. I was giving a presentation to the Senate a while back, and I was talking about us having the cheapest, safest food supply of any place in the world. It's not just about the farmers in rural America. And so Marco Rubio was sitting by me prior to coming over here and becoming the great Secretary of State. But he punched me and said, John, always remind him, he was head of the Committee on Intelligence. He punched me, he said, always remind them, food security is national security. So this is important for so many different reasons. And again, I appreciate you for recognizing that, not only now, but when you were campaigning in your first election, how you treated the farmers in your first administration, and now stepping up. So we look forward to helping you. If we need some additional help, looking to Congress, or whatever, we'll be there for you. So
we're taking in so much money with the tariffs now that it's such a pleasure. Without it, we wouldn't be able to help you. We're making a country, we're the richest country in the world now. And, we have a big decision. Hopefully we're going to get the right decision. It's such a big thing in the Supreme Court right now. And we have a lot of bad people opposed to us, people that hate our country. Other countries are involved, some real sleazebags that I know, political sleazebags. And they're trying to take that away from us. And we have other methods, but they're not as powerful. They're not as quick. Some of the wars that I solved wouldn't have been solved using those methods. So it's a very important thing, the tariff. The decision of the Supreme Court's a very important thing. And Scott, we can do it other ways, but it's slow and it's cumbersome, and it doesn't have the power. It doesn't have the national security power that we have. So I hope we're going to be successful. That's all I can tell you. Austin, please. Thank you, John.
Well, first of all, President, thank you for the selection of Brooke Rollins as Secretary of Agriculture. That was a big first step.
You want to keep her?
Absolutely.
Can I
absolutely
butt in and second that? She's not only her, but her staff does a tremendous job.
I agree.
And
remember eggs? Remember we came in and
absolutely
the people in the media. I'm going to be nice. People in the media were 3 days into offices. You're right. They're saying egg prices are up like 90% more than that. And I said, I just got here. I didn't know about it. Anyway, she got those prices down to below what they were before. She's doing a great job. Now beef is starting to come down, and some other things are starting to come down. Again, we inherited these problems, but we're getting them down. Go ahead, please.
She's a fact-based decision maker, and the egg issue is where I learned about her. She said, we're not going to use a vaccine that doesn't work. We're going to develop a vaccine that does. Right. And that is 100% what it takes. And so we have to make decisions based on facts. And President Trump, the trade issues, I want to thank you for exposing what other countries are doing to us. Yep. I want to mention one specifically for the benefit of Kevin and Scott. I hope they're paying attention to it, but the European Union deforestation regulation, where they are imposing on our landowners rules that were established for Brazil, and now they're telling the American farmer what they can and can't do on their own land through this European Union deforestation regulation.
What does that tell? Explain that.
They are telling the American farmer that if their timber is cut and they are going to use that land for pasture land or for production agriculture, that they will not take the timber or the byproducts from the sale of that timber. And I have talked with James a little earlier about we need to make it clear to Europe, Mr. President.
If you could give me a 2-paragraph statement on that, I will give that to them, and they will do what they have to do.
Yes, sir.
We're always helping them, and they do this kind of stuff. And they pass little regulations that cost billions of dollars. It takes them 2 minutes to do it. They do it. Very tough. No good. You give me a couple of paragraphs. That's all. We don't have to do a lengthy study, and I'll get that changed fast. Okay?
Thank you very much, President. We love you.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, every day it's something else.
A country that can't feed itself doesn't know what freedom is. And so thank you for making sure that our farmers have the tools that they need so that we as a country can feed ourselves.
Well, just what you said to me about, the European Union. Now, that guy's the European Union, right? We have to be able to act quickly with tariffs. We can't just, go to a committee, go to a study that takes 7 months and talk. We got to be able to act quickly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
John?
So thank you. I think that's the message from Farm Country is thank you very much. You know, in the Working Family Tax Relief Act, or as my young staffers call it, OB3, there is a tremendous amount for farmers and ranchers. You mentioned the credit as far as estate tax, which is so important. You analyzed it just right. But also in there, we enhanced ARC and PLC, which is a countercyclical safety net, thanks to the strong leadership of Senator Bozeman and our colleagues in the House. But we also included the Farmer Act, which was my bill to make crop insurance more affordable. These tools will kick in next year, Mr. President, in a big, big way for our farmers, big time. And people aren't even really looking at it yet, but it's going to be a very big deal. So today is all about bridging to get there. And I want to thank Secretary Bassett and Jameson Greer. They're tremendous, and they're negotiating hard out there for farmers and ranchers. And I know it's because you're setting the tone. But this is that bridge, and so we need to come back to Secretary Rollins. Thank you. Your leadership on this was vital. And Mr. President, you're right, they love you in Farm Country out there. All you have to do is drive out and see the flags and
signs all over the fields.
On the hay bales, right?
It's a great honor. They're great people, the best people.
This is really important. Really important for our farmers and ranchers. Thank you very much.
You're doing a great job too, John. Thank you. And whatever we need, we get through the Senate, we get through the House, we'll get it done. I think we'll start maybe with Court Hollow, and you come from a place that I'm very happy with.
I hail from the great state of Iowa. You know, I'm surrounded here by some of the greatest farmers in the area, and from across the country. Anything from rice farmers, we've got all sorts of cotton farmers, everything. Everything is here represented so well. And first off, from me, I want to say thank you for this bridge payment. It's Christmas early for farmers. And just to kind of have an icebreaker here for the story, I've got a 2-year-old little boy at home. 2-year-old little boy and a 4-month-old little girl. And the other day I was reading my little boy a story at night, putting him to bed, and he said, "Daddy, I don't want Santa Claus to come to our house for Christmas. I want President Trump." And I think, Mr. Trump, I think you brought Christmas to farmers with this bridge payment. We'll be able to farm another year, help us get by. It's such an honor to be here with you. I lost my grandfather and a hired hand in 2002 in a farming accident. And he instilled in me at an early age to love the land, to take pride in what we do.
Was that a machine accident?
It was a machine accident. And it gets in your blood to farm. It's in our blood. Despite what happened, I want my 2-year-old to farm. I want my 4-month-old daughter to have an opportunity. And what you're doing here in DC is working. You have a backbone to stand up to other countries for trade. You're getting things done. Tax provisions. I'll be able to potentially pass on a farm to my children because of you. Ethanol. You're working for ethanol. Trying to get E15 year-round. We're dealing with California, Prop 12. Let's continue to work on that. I think we can have a lot of domestic product used here in the country, and we can keep America first, and you're good at that. That is who you are, and if we keep that E15, you could have the biggest...
E15 is a big deal?
E15 is a great deal, year-round.
Okay.
You could have the biggest stamp. I did that. Trump did that, and we would thank you. Farmers would love you more than anything if we could continue that. Continue to use domestic product, use the byproducts, and even be able to export to other countries. And so what you've done here, and just having us here in the White House with you, sitting beside the Secretary and all these other great individuals here, what a true honor. And I will take pride in this meeting, and I will take this home for many generations to come. And because of what you're doing, hopefully them generations can stay on the Holobland farm.
Well, we're going to bring you into the Oval Office when we're finished, okay? The farmers Nobody else, just the farmers. And we'll take some pictures. Our representatives also. We have to let them, because they're doing a great job, John and Austin. We appreciate it. You're doing a great job. Meryl, go ahead, please. Tell us about rice.
Rice. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me here. And my friend, the secretary, you have an incredible lady right here. She really is. Along with being a mother of 3 and a wife, I run my family's agribusiness, Kennedy Rice Mill, in a little town called Merage, Louisiana, about 1,000 people in the northern part of the state. We employ around 150 people, taking rice from the field to a finished product, supplying some of the largest food companies that many of you would know here domestically, but also abroad. And my sisters and I, because there is 4 of us, right? I'm the youngest of 4 daughters, started our own rice brand a few years ago to just tell the story of American agriculture that hadn't really been told before. But I wish I was here under better terms. I'll tell you, I think the rice industry thanks you sincerely for what you have done for the California rice market into Japan. It has been monumental for our industry. But us in the South are really struggling. I mean, this is not just a crisis. I would say it's almost a market dynamics that really are true anti-competitive nature, right? So it follows what you sent out this weekend. And we do believe that countries are dumping rice into this country today. We've never seen imports this great.
Which countries?
India, Thailand, even China into Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico used to be one of the largest markets for U.S. rice. We haven't shipped rice into Puerto Rico in years. So this has been happening for years. This didn't start during your administration, but unfortunately, we're seeing it in a much bigger way now. The tariffs are working, but we need to double down because
you want more. I mean,
well, they're cheating, right? They're they're just subsidizing and then
India. Tell me about India. Why is India allowed to do that? They have to pay tariffs. Do they have an exemption on rice?
No, sir. We're still working on their trade deal. So
yeah, but they should be dumping. I mean, I heard that from others. You can't do that.
There's a WTO case against India
Give me
now.
the countries, if you could. Go ahead. India. Who else?
So India.
Mark it down. Which is good.
Yes, sir.
India, Thailand, China into Puerto Rico, not into the continental U.S., but into Puerto Rico. Those are the main culprits.
So Puerto Rico used to do a lot of business, and now you're
100%. Puerto Rico was U.S. based.
All right.
And
so
now
easy to settle. Okay.
But there's others too, and I can get you a full list.
Get me a full list. Yeah.
Of course I can.
All right.
So.
Go ahead.
So truly, this is a national security issue. I think you put it just perfectly. And so I want for all of us in the room to know that rice is more than just a commodity. It's a currency in many of these countries.
And you love rice, right?
I love rice. Yes, I'm going to get you to love rice too. The next time you're not going to have a button for a Coke, you're going to have a button for a rice.
Get a little bit of rice.
But
the farmers love what they do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, our farmers can feed this nation and many nations abroad, but we need fair trade, not free trade. Yep. And so we appreciate what you've done today. We appreciate what you did in the big, beautiful bill. I mean, my word, you really changed reference prices, and we're hopeful that we can even move that further. I know that rice prices right now are the lowest they've been in over 40 years, so we're going to struggle. We're going to max out on our payments probably. So that's something that I know those in Congress can potentially help us with to change. But again, we appreciate everything you're doing.
That's solved so quickly with tariffs to these countries that are illegally shipping. It's solved. Your problem is solved in one day. Mm-hmm. That's why we have to win the Supreme Court case. Mm-hmm. In one day, that problem's solved. It's so unfair. They go out of business. They put everyone out of business. That's what they did to our car industry. We lost more than 50% of our car industry because of that. We lost our chip industry. It went to Taiwan because of that. If you had a president that said, no, you can't do that, it's 100% or 200% tariff on chips if you make them outside of the United, we would have never lost our chip industry. But we're going to have 40 or 50% of it back very shortly because they're all coming in now from Taiwan. They're building chip companies. But it's the same thing with rice. Thank you, darling,
Yeah.
very much.
Thank
Really
you.
nice. No, it'll be good. We'll
Thank you.
get it solved very quickly. We just need the countries. We just give us the names of the countries.
Yeah.
Tariffs
They
again.
own
It
the
solves
largest
the problem in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they've bought the largest brands at retail too, right? So they have an incentive to subsidize their products so that they can keep it on the
Yeah,
shelf.
who did that?
The Indians own the 2 largest brands.
And we'll take care of it.
Thank
It's so easy. So, do you have any questions?
Yes, President Trump. How are
How
you?
about keeping it on farming?
Your team answered all of my questions on
Boats.
farming, but I do.
Do you have a farm?
Mr. President, in the interest of affordability with this aid package, I assume that that's something you want consumers to see before midterms next year. How quickly will that affect prices at the grocery store?
Well, I think the prices are going to be going down already. I mean, the prices are way down. We brought prices way down from what it was. We inherited high prices. We inherited the biggest inflation in the history of our country. That means prices going up. And we brought it down very substantially. Now inflation is essentially gone. We have it normalized, and it'll go down even a little bit further. You don't want it to be deflation either. You have to be careful. But we brought it way down. We had inflation that was the highest in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but I say the history. 48 years is pretty bad too, right? So we're solving those problems.
President Trump,
We're
would
bringing
you-
them way down, yeah.
Would you consider MAHA incentives for farmers that go by MAHA guidelines?
Well, a lot of the farmers like those MAHA guidelines, yeah. So, I mean, they do. We like MAHA. How do you feel about
Yeah, let me answer that. So this is another reason, I didn't mention it, but this is another reason I think that what we're moving into is a golden age for agriculture. As Secretary Kennedy and I, and across our cabinet with the president's leadership, focusing on making America healthy again, the undergirding foundational effort in that is our agriculture industry. It is our farmers and our ranchers. So as the new dietary guidelines come out in early January, where USDA alone spends $400 million a day on nutrition programs, that's a whole other SNAP, fraud, et cetera. But when you think about what a market mover that is, as we begin to move the market toward more locally produced, American-made, healthier products, closer to the schools, the hospitals, et cetera, you again begin to open up so much of the market for the great products produced by these farmers instead of ultra-processed foods out of a box. So there's a lot that's going to be coming on that as well. I'm really
Mr. President, I have a question. It's not related to farming, but if you'll entertain. I'm Kara from Lindell TV, Kara Kashnov, and I'm not fake news, just so you know. And everybody's talking about the pipe bomber over the weekend, the suspect that was taken into custody. I reported on Biden's kangaroo court for 4 years. And this is an important question to me. Everyone knows that J6 was a Fed's direction to set you and your supporters up. So my question is, what's your gut instinct about the new pipe bomber suspect taken into custody? Does your instinct tell you that he acted alone? And also, Mr. President, how do you feel about the lead prosecutor on the pipe bomber case? Jocelyn Ballantine is the same prosecutor that allegedly asked the J6er to lie to frame you for J6 when you did nothing wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that question. It's sort of a statement, and I appreciate it very much. Jocelyn is being looked at. They all have to be looked at. What they're doing is so bad. This was a whole Democrat hoax. The whole thing was a Democrat hoax, and it's all being looked at. I appreciate
Is
that.
this the final aid package, Mr. President, or is more expected? Is this the final aid package, farm aid
It
package?
depends on where we go. China's buying a lot. Other countries are buying a lot. And, you know, the interesting thing about the farm, they don't want aid. They want to just have a level playing field.
No, please.
I've seen that more with farmers than anybody else, any other industry, right, Deb?
Right.
We've seen it more with farmers where I've had meetings like this, primarily in the first term, and we did a great job. We turned it around. This is going to be the golden age, but the farmers don't want aid. They want to have a level playing field, because if they have a level playing field, they'll do better than anybody else. They're better than anybody else. Our product is incredible. Our machinery is incredible, right? I mean, we do have the best machines. It's a very big statement I made, though. The environmental excess that we have put onto our tractors and all of our machinery. Do you all agree with that, by the way?
Oh, yes.
You don't
It's got to go.
It doesn't do anything except make the machines break all the time.
Yeah.
And I must say, I like to buy old machinery. I said, buy old, because it's better. The new stuff is terrible. It never works. Never works.
Mr. President, you said that you would have Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says.
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
You said that you would have no problem releasing the full bit. Okay, well, Secretary Hegseth.
Whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
He now says it's under review. Are you ordering the secretary to release that full video?
Whatever he decides is okay with me. So every boat we knock out of the water, every boat, we save 25,000 American lives. That was a boat loaded up with drugs. I saw the video. They were trying to turn the boat back to where it could float. And we didn't want to see that because that boat was loaded up with drugs just like everything else. But every boat we shoot down, and I don't know if you know, we're 92 or 94% down in drugs coming in by the sea. And we're trying to find who are the 6%. Because I don't know, people aren't liking to drive boats right now loaded up with drugs. But every single, think of that, every single boat we shoot out, on average, we save 25,000 American lives. Do you feel okay about that, Court?
Keep us safe.
Okay. I know my man. What about you? Are you okay with that?
I'm totally fine with that. Are you admitting to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was up to Secretary
You're the most obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, actually a terrible reporter. And it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
Mr. President, midterms, and I just have a quick question. There's at least 20 House Republicans who have either said they're going to retire or not run again. Do you have any concerns about the number?
And Democrats also.
Right. Do you have any?
Why don't you mention them? How many Democrats are going to retire? How many Democrats?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
But why don't you tell me the number of Democrats too? You tell me about.
Are you concerned about the narrow margins? And
no, I'm not concerned. I think we're going to do well.
Among them, and
we will have the greatest economy.
Blakeman, who you know as well, is considering running for governor.
We're going to have the greatest economy in history. How many Democrats are retiring? How come you only know the Republicans but not the Democrats?
Because I came prepared to ask you a question about.
No, you're unprepared because you should know the Democrats. You're totally unprepared. Go ahead.
Well, can I ask a quick follow-up about?
Who are you with?
I'm with New York Newsday, and I also have a quick follow-up. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is among those who is running for New York governor.
She's great.
Bruce Blakeman, who you also know,
he's also great.
Are you planning on making any endorsements?
Well, I'll think about it, but he's great and she's great. They're both great people. We have a lot of great people in the Republican Party. Go ahead.
Can I get back to farming?
So
you talked about the profitability issue, the machinery playing a role in that, and fertilizer plays another role in that. A lot of that, the way I understand it, it comes in from Canada, different countries like that. What are we doing to bolster domestic fertilizer production to help make that more affordable? And then I think that will transition down the pipe.
One of the things, a lot of it does come in from Canada. And so we'll end up putting very severe tariffs on that if we have to, because that's the way you want to bolster here. And we can do it here. We can all do that here. But I would say what you do, you put very severe tariffs on from coming into other countries. You'll be making your own fertilizer very soon.
In fact, Secretary Burgum, this cabinet is so remarkable. Instead of just seeing each other every month, we're literally talking every day, multiples of times a day. But our Secretary of the Interior, I, and Secretary Bessent and others, we have a whole plan in place, including the reshoring of fertilizer and the opportunity to do it in America. Having said that, we've also, per the President's guidance, issued a directive. These fertilizer companies, the seed companies, the equipment companies, all of the above, as our farmers have struggled year over year, the meatpacking companies continue to make, a lot of money, hand over fist, a lot of foreign-owned companies. So that's why the President has been very unequivocal in saying we got to figure out why all these input costs are skyrocketing and all of our farmers are struggling, which we're going to do.
So
that is a great question.
When they take like fertilizer out of the country, all of a sudden we don't do it anymore. Then they start charging and sending the, very high prices from other countries, whether it's Canada or somebody else. We're not going to let that happen.
Okay? Mr. President, on the quality of foreign produce, you spoke about soybeans and how the quality here in the United States obviously is a lot better.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, is the default of this administration, because that's an issue I understand with root vegetables, citrus as well, is the default of this administration that even if it's a little bit more expensive homegrown, you will choose homegrown over cheaper produce abroad?
I like homegrown. You know, some things we can't grow because we don't have the heat. There are some things, you know, little delicacies, or maybe not such delicacies, but they grow better in warmer climates, very warm climates, actually. But for the most part, I like homegrown.
Mr. President, thank you. One on this announcement and then one on foreign policy, if I may. Are you open to tapping into tariff revenue again should farmers find they need additional relief to get to that level?
Yeah, if we're going to make the farmers so strong, and I'm not even talking about financially, because they just want to be able to produce what they can produce, and we're going to make them so strong that it will be indeed a golden age for farmers.
And then on Russia and
you know, we had it going in the first administration, and then Biden came in and ruined everything. They had no idea what they would. They did. I mean, I think they hated the farmer. I love the farmer.
And
that's why I got 94% of the vote from the farmers. But they hated the farmers. I love the farmers. Go ahead.
And then on Russia and Ukraine, obviously your administration has been having talks with each side. Given that there is no peace deal at this point, will your administration stay engaged in those talks to effort a peace deal?
We just want to see people stop from being killed. You know, we don't, as you know, Joe Biden gave them $350 billion. You know, and I gave them nothing. I gave them, well, I did give them javelins at the beginning and knocked out a hell of a lot of attacks. But, and Obama gave sheets. Remember, Obama gave sheets and I gave javelins. But no, we have a great situation going over there, except for one problem. You got a lot of people dying, and I want to see that stop. So you have mostly Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers. Last month, 27,000 soldiers died, mostly soldiers. A few people from the dropping of a missile in the middle of Kiev or wherever, which is a terrible thing. But mostly soldiers. 27,000 soldiers died last month. That's what I want to see stop. We, as you know, we now sell equipment to NATO at full price, and NATO takes that equipment and probably gives it to Ukraine. I guess they could give it to others too, but for the most part, give it to Ukraine. And they're working with Ukraine in terms of distribution of equipment, missiles, etc. But we aren't spending money. What we are doing is spending time on a humane basis. We want to see if we can stop the killing of 27. It would have never happened. This war would have never happened if the election weren't rigged. If I were president, this war would have never happened.
President Trump, if you could talk a lot about the soybean purchases. You talked a lot, obviously, about China's soybean purchases. Some lawmakers from North and South Carolina have raised concern that U.S. tobacco farmers were told that China would not purchase flu-cured tobacco this year. Has that come up in your conversations at all?
I haven't heard that, but we're doing well. The tobacco people, because of the deals I made, they're doing very well. But that could be, if it's the case, I can get it solved very quickly.
President Trump, let us know how you settled on this $12 billion or $11 billion plus one more $billion figure.
We looked at how they were hurt, to what extent they were hurt. We did a very, steady progression of charts, and we figured out a very exact number, and it was about $12 billion. Okay?
President Trump, if you had one Christmas wish for America besides making American farmers great again, what would it be?
I would say very simply, I go by a statement when people ask that question. Remember that question was asked to Ted Kennedy, and they said, well, what are you going to do to make America great? And he couldn't answer the question. I have a very simple, we're going to make America greater than ever before, and we're going to do it through a series of tariffs, intelligent taxes, and incentives. And our country has never been stronger. We've never had anything like coming in. We have $18 trillion coming into our country right now. There's never been anything like it. And if you ask me that, I'll say I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because there's never been anything like this happen.
Do you support
the biggest number ever in history was $2 trillion, and we're at $18 trillion. This is money pouring into our country on building car plants, on building AI plants. We just want to keep doing exactly what we're doing because nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the world, not just our country. There's never been, Scott, would you say that's right? There's never been anything like the investments coming into America.
So this is a record year. Record year.
Do you support the Paramount deal, sir?
On healthcare, Mr. President, 22 million Americans are expected to see their healthcare insurance premiums start to rise by the beginning of next year.
You're talking about because Obamacare is so bad?
Yes, well, sir, because the Obamacare subsidies are expiring. Are you going to do
That's
anything?
because Obamacare is so bad.
What is the Republican plan? Are you going to let that happen on your watch?
What I'm going to do is, if the Democrats go along with it, which they don't want to because they want to make the insurance companies very rich, okay? I want the money to be paid to the people to go out and buy their own health care instead of paying to the, you know, the insurance companies, their stock has gone up 1,700% in a short period of time. Did you know that? 1,700. You wish your corn went up, right? But the insurance companies' stock has gone up by 1,700%, 1,800%. They're taking in trillions of dollars. I don't want to pay the insurance companies anything. And I know a lot of them, but they're owned by the Democrats. And the Democrats have, Obamacare is a setup to make insurance companies rich. And I want to pay the people, and I want the people to go out and buy their own health care. And that's what we want to do, and that's what the Republicans want to do, because Obamacare is a disaster. And I said it 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. It was always a disaster. It's bad health care that's too expensive for people. And now your premiums, and you said it better than I said it. You said the Obamacare premiums are going to go up. They're going way up. And what I want to do is have the money. And you know who's getting that money? A lot of it is the insurance companies. I want the people to get the money and go out and buy their own health care. And everybody wants that, right? Okay.
When Mr. President put that bill on the floor, sir.
Do you have any reaction on the fine that was imposed to X by the European
For what?
Union? To X, to the platform X, the fine that the
Wow,
European
that was
Union
pretty
imposed.
amazing. You're talking about, is that European Union or is it, who did that? European Union or UK?
The European Commission.
Whoa, that's a nasty one.
Do
I
you
don't
consider it an
know.
attack?
Elon has not called me to ask for help on that one. But no, that's a tough thing. I don't think it's right. No, I don't think it's right. I don't see, you know, how they can do that. No, I'm not. I'll speak about it later. I'm going to get a full report on it. Look, Europe has to be very careful. They're doing a lot of things. We want to keep Europe. Europe is going in some bad directions. It's very bad for the people. We don't want Europe to change so much. They're going in some very bad directions. That was a big thing.
You directed a review of the childhood vaccine schedule, possibly to match what is on par with peer nations in Europe. Would you support ending federal mandates and just making those recommendations for schools?
You're going to have to say it again.
As far as the vaccine
Louder.
as far as the vaccine schedule for children, would you support ending the federal mandates and making it optional for schools?
Well, we're looking at a lot of things having to do with vaccines and with the different. I think we take like 88 different shots, all wrapped up in one big glass of stuff like that, and we're going to be reducing it very substantially.
Do you support the Paramount
It'll be safe,
bid, Mr. President?
but we're going to be reducing it very
Do you
substantially.
support the Paramount bid for Warner Brothers? That
I
came
don't
this
know enough
morning?
about it.
You spoke about Netflix last night, saying you have concerns about them.
I know the companies very well. I know what they're doing, but I have to see what percentage of market they have. We have to see the Netflix percentage of market, Paramount, the percentage of market. I mean, none of them are particularly great friends of mine. You know, I want to do what's right. It's so very important to do what's
The
right.
Paramount deal was supported by Jared Kushner, Mr. President. Would that impact your decision?
If Paramount is, I don't know. I've never spoken to him about it. He's really trying to work on Gaza. I think Gaza's his primary thing is Gaza.
If you're making house visits on Christmas Eve, as he suggested, does the beast need to be fitted with sleigh rails?
You want to answer that question?
Absolutely. We should put sleigh rails on the beast, yes.
Do you support that?
Go ahead.
That Republican plan that you just talked about when it comes to health care, when do you expect Republicans to put that
We're
on?
looking at it very strongly, and we're also going to the Democrats and asking them to do it. The Democrats want to make the insurance companies rich. They're all paid off by the insurance companies. A tremendous amount of the insurance company funding goes to Democrats. Why don't you ask that question of the Democrats? Because I would love to do it. I'd love all of the money to go to the people. They go to the people. You know, I put that out 2 weeks ago. It became #1 viral. People love it. I want the money to go for healthcare, to go to the people and let the people buy their own healthcare through an account. They can buy their own healthcare. And everybody loves it, except for the Democrats. And you know why they don't? Because they're paid off by the insurance companies. Okay, what else?
Yeah, Alina Habba says she's stepping down as U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey after the courts disqualified her. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, she's not disqualified. You've got a blue slip thing that's horrible. It's a horrible thing. It makes it impossible to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney, and it's a shame. And the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves that they allow this to go on, because I can't appoint a U.S. attorney that's not a Democrat, because they put a block on it. So if you appoint in Virginia or in New Jersey or in California a U.S. attorney or a judge, I mean, a judge situation is ridiculous. The only people that you can get by are Democrats, because they will put a hold on it. If I put up George Washington and Abraham Lincoln to be U.S. attorney in New Jersey, or to be U.S. attorney in Virginia, we have Democrat senators, they will not approve them. And this is a gentleman's agreement that's lasted for too long, and it doesn't make it, especially in light of what's going on today. It means you can't appoint a Republican U.S. attorney, and we don't play the same game with them, but they do. And I hope that somebody speaks to Senator Grassley about doing something about the blue slip, because I'm telling you, John, I put up great people, top people, highest education, the best lawyers to be like U.S. attorney, and both senators, it only takes one. But if they're Democrat senators, they say, we're not going to approve it. I had a couple of them say, why don't you appoint Democrats? All because Senator Grassley, with his blue slip stuff, will not let anybody go by. By the way, the Democrats have violated the blue slip provision on numerous occasions, but we don't do it. And what it means is, I guess I just have to keep appointing people for 3 months and then just appoint another one. And it's a very sad situation. We're losing a lot of great people. We have about 7 U.S. attorneys who are not going to be able to keep their jobs much longer because of the blue slip. Because unless, I think I know why they did that, to protect their ass. Okay, that's why they did that. But it should be done away with. I want to be able to appoint the most highly educated, the most respected people. They can't keep their jobs because of the blue slips. Terrible. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. The farmers, let's come into the Oval Office. All right, Deb, come on.
And that was President Trump and members of his cabinet announcing an initial $11 billion in aid to help farmers affected by the ongoing trade war with China. Now, until a recent meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping, Chinese buyers had completely stopped buying American soybeans. That left American farmers in a fix. China is the world's largest soybean market, so now the Trump administration has stepped in with help in the form of a one-time payment that farmers will need to apply for. And with us now is Daniel Akaye, chief economist at the Tressis Hedge Fund, managing over $8 billion in assets. Daniel, great to see you as always. Daniel, any farmers we speak with say they just want an opportunity to make a living. President Trump put it, they just want a level playing field. They don't want government assistance per se. As a free market guy, as you are, where do you stand on this idea of government aid in this specific case?
Thank you very much, Paul. I think the problem with farming is very, very complicated, because if you think about it, the issue all over the world is that farming is so overprotected and it's so intervened by governments that we cannot talk about a real free market. We're talking about an environment in which, for example, through so-called environmental regulations, through enormous subsidies, etc., the competition against the United States is so unfair that you have, for example, the impossibility, as we have heard in the conference that just finished, that some of the farmers have the impossibility of, for example, exporting rice to countries that actually would demand it and continue to demand it, which is affecting prices of food all over the world in a very negative way, because it's making food more expensive, and at the same time it's hurting U.S. farmers. So this aid is something that is supportive, but it's also realistic. It's realistic because we need to understand that in the European Union, the level of interventionism and the level of subsidization of so many different areas in agriculture and farming is enormous, but also very, very aggressive in Brazil, in India, in China. Think about this. The countries that have the largest trade barriers against the United States in agriculture and farming are those that are actually called the BRICS. They got together, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Those countries have so many barriers, not just trade barriers like tariffs, but regulatory, legal, investor insecurity, so many different layers, including indirect taxes, alleged environmental or local content protection laws. It's absolutely amazing. So I think that what they're trying to achieve with this measure is first to level the playing field. It's not logical that U.S. agriculture and farming businesses are facing an environment in which many of them are going to die because of working capital bills, because they cannot sell their product when the product is demanded, and at the same time, they're putting barriers elsewhere and calling it free trade.
We saw this in this press conference, in this roundtable just now, Daniel. On the one hand, the farmers complaining about environmental regulations around equipment, which is pushing up costs for them. And at the same time, like you mentioned, these BRICS countries, these poorer countries gathering together, and as they put it in the conference, dumping rice and other produce on America and in Puerto Rico, other areas, which, as you put it just now, is not allowing for a level playing field between America and these foreign countries. Now, one phrase that was used was food security is national security. You see it this way?
Obviously, everybody sees it that way. Everybody in the world sees it that way. To the point that what we have seen, for example, we just talked about environmental restrictions. The level of environmental restrictions in the European Union is so severe that it's literally just built to prevent U.S. companies from selling. And in the case of agriculture, is particularly damaging, considering that a lot of the things that are being limited are not just elements that one would consider that could be harmful, but things that then, and this is to me the most infuriating thing, is that on the one hand, there's these enormous trade and regulatory burdens against the United States, but then they lift it when it's time to get deals with Morocco, with Turkey, with Ukraine, or with Algeria. It's amazing. It is truly amazing. So is it an issue of national security? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Everybody in the world is talking about energy and food security. And the United States has the quality and the availability and the affordability factors in farming and agriculture that make other countries very nervous, but you cannot just think that they can export all of their excess capacity whenever they want at the prices that Americans pay for, and then put barriers against U.S. goods.
Well, on that point,